The First World War began on the 4th of August 1914. At this time, Charles Cove was 24 years old and was already in the regular army. He embarked from Southampton on the 5th of October 1914 with the 2nd Wiltshire Regiment, which was part of the 21st Infantry Brigade. They were transported over the Channel on the SS Turkoman and SS Sestrain. On the 7th of October, they landed at Zeebrugge, where they proceeded to Bruges by rail. From there, they travelled to Ypres, where they were billeted in the Kaiserwein barracks. On the 15th of October, they left Ypres and began their march along the Menin Road. They reached Hughes the following morning and opened out into skirmishing order to clear the woods between Hughes and Besselaire. On the 17th, they opened fire on a German patrol, who returned fire. Early the next morning, the brigade marched a short distance eastwards to Hand, where they came under heavy shrapnel fire. Artillery fire continued until late on the 23rd of October. Before daybreak on the 24th, the Germans attacked in superior numbers. Though they were initially driven back, a second wave allowed them to break through the lines. The British troops were forced to retreat. With many British soldiers killed or wounded, it's believed that it was on this date that Charles was taken prisoner. The remainder of the battalion reformed, and on the 25th he was posted missing. Now presumed dead by the British, Charles and several others were transported to prisoner of war camps in Germany. It has never been confirmed where he was held. However, it was known that at least one other member of the 2nd Wiltshires to be captured on the 24th was held in Hamel. The prison camp was located on low ground, backing onto wooded hills. It consisted of 100 barrack huts and was run by the German 10th Army Corps. During the battle, Charles had sustained a rather unusual wound. He had been shot in the foot, from where the bullet travelled up his calf and exited at his knee. He always believed that if the British had found him, they would have amputated his leg. However, the Germans performed experimental surgery and were able to save his leg, and though he wore a structured metal boot for the rest of his life, he was able to walk with relative ease. We don't know how he found out, but Charles learnt that he had been listed as presumed dead, along with several other soldiers who were still alive in Germany. So he helped with a prison escape to get a more able-bodied man back to the British lines. The escape was a success, and the escapee was able to find a British unit who alerted the Red Cross to the surviving POWs. On the 2nd of January 1915, Charles was reported wounded, and on the 12th of March 1915, he was confirmed as a prisoner of war. He spent the remainder of the war in a camp in Germany. On November the 11th, 1918, when the war ended, all soldiers returned home to their families. On the 7th of February 1919, he received his certificate of Army employment, stating that he was a good NCO and useful man, always reliable. He was then discharged on the 8th of March that year, being listed as surplus to military requirements. For his services during the war, he was awarded the 1914 Mons Star, the British War Medal 1914-1918, the Allied Victory Medal, and the Silver War Badge. Charles went on to have 4 children, including his youngest, a son, Dennis Henry Charles. Many survivors from the First World War thought that it had been the war to end all wars. Sadly, however, this was not the case, as only a few years later, in 1939, the Second World War began. It was then that Charles's son was drafted. In 1945, the Second World War ended, and Charles saw the return of his only son. His family continued to grow, and though he never spoke much about the war, Charles was delighted when his granddaughter, Jane, went to work for a German company. As Charles had often stated, he felt indebted to the Germans for saving his leg. Charles spent the rest of his life on Hayling Island with his wife Kathleen, spending time with his family, tending his garden and looking after his beloved gnomes. Charles died on the 27th of December 1970 in his bungalow on Conway, West Lane. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.